People are frightened by the strangeness.
Newscum.
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 News scum.
Okay. Minutes from the last meeting.
Oh, yes. Yeah, their last meeting we discussed Iran. And this week we won't. We'll discuss something else. And that was the extent of my minute.
Well, the action item was don't discuss Iran again. We have discussed Iran extensively. But you know that channel that I'm quite into these days, Predictive History?
I saw some of that.
He came out with another video since the last episode, and it is pretty dramatic stuff.
What did he say?
Well, it would probably take the whole episode to get into it, but he's talking about Isaac Newton and how what's going on in the Middle East goes back to him being rejected
Isaac Newton.
Yeah, him being rejected by the Catholic Church at the time and setting up secret institutions, secret societies in the UK where he was allowed to discuss his secret knowledge of science that was blasphemy. These secret societies...
Isaac Newton set up secret societies.
He was involved in them.
Oh.
I mean, maybe set them up. I don't know. But, because he couldn't discuss publicly what his thoughts were because they were against the church.
I see. Okay.
And those secret societies are the ones that have evolved into the sort of Atlanticist societies that we know today, like the Skull and Bones and the Freemasons. And so but he was religious. This is the thing. What he was saying was blasphemous. Because it was a sort of scientific, religious hodgepodge, a fudge, classic political fudge that he came up with. And that's formed the basis of the sort of power networks that control the deep state of.
So actually, Isaac Newton, he may not have founded these secret societies, but he was instrumental at the very beginning of the secret societies. So the guy who invented gravity is also one of the movers and shakers behind the secret world government.
Yeah, well, I didn't do any research. I just listened to this guy's views on it. But he had some interesting ideas because his ideas about the laws of physics and stuff were that they proved God rather than disproved him.
Is that what Isaac Newton?
Or her. Or they.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Isaac Newton thought.
So when the apple fell on Newton's head...
Yeah, it really, really did a number on him, and he went mental.
Did he think that the apple was flicked onto his head by God?
Sure. Sure, yeah.
Okay. Who was the guy in the bath?
Archimedes?
Archimedes, I think. Was he part of the secret societies, do you think?
I don't know. All I know is what was said in this video. We'll have to wait. Maybe he'll go through every famous thinker and talk about how they're involved in the Israel-Palestine conflict. But no, it was interesting stuff. Probably worth watching. But we're not going to talk about Iran today.
Good.
We're going to talk about women crying in public.
Oh, my word. I literally just, Go on. What do you think?
What do I think about what?
Well, I went to the shop and I saw the headline in the Daily Mail. I was like, what an unkind headline.
What was it?
Jan Reeves made all women look weak. What a horrible thing to say. Jeez.
I mean, I wouldn't. Not all women are like Rachel Reeves. Some women, I think Rachel Reeves is obviously weak and pathetic, but we can't lump all women in with that. What do I think about it? Well, I think, crying, the showing of emotion, there's something really eerie about our society in general, that there are certain things that you're just not allowed to be in public or to display in certain circumstances. And they're often associated with weakness. But obviously crying, I mean, obviously in that particular instance, it definitely was weakness.
Of course, yeah, it goes without saying.
Yeah, but in general, crying, people cry for all sorts of reasons. It's just a physical expression of powerful feeling in all sorts of different ways. And the fact that you're unable, like all of these, lots of kind of feelings like that, embarrassment. I mean, embarrassment is sort of like the self-fulfilling thing, like, because it's embarrassing to show embarrassment. So it's just like a vicious loop. But like the only thing you're really allowed to show, or is kind of respected, is anger. For some reason. Like, I mean, I guess there's an obvious reason for that. But it's even anger, obviously, up to a certain extent. You're allowed to show. Everything has to be kind of measured.
You can't lose it.
You can't lose it. You can't lose it in any way. But that's the thing. What is losing it mean? Because that's a judgment call, right? And we make a decision like at a certain point. These are the parameters of where you can be emotionally in public life. And if you cry or you shout, you can be assertive. You can be aggressive in your speaking in a sort of angry manner, but you can't shout, or you can't shout too loudly. There's all this kind of stuff, right? And it's just horrible. It's really unhealthy. I mean, it's a really, really fucked up thing that I guess has evolved over hundreds and hundreds of years of the forming of society, and we just completely accept. So what I'd say to Rachel Reeves is, although I appreciate that isn't the world we live in. The world we live in is one where you can't cry in public. You stupid fuckface. Now, fuck off. I mean, I've got no sympathy for Rachel Reeves. I mean, Rachel Reeves, she came out and she said, a lot of people have bad days and stuff, but I happen to be in the public eye. I'm on camera. Poor me. And I'm like, no, most jobs, if you're fucking in tears, you're sent home. And most jobs these days, if you're not physically in the workplace, you're not being paid. So I don't have any sympathy with, like, if you can sit there on the front.
So you're going further than Jan Moir here. You're saying that she should have been sent home and had a day's pay docked from her
pretty
parliamentary
much
salary.
Well, I think she should go. I think she should have gone a long time ago. And she will go. I mean, that's the reason that she was crying, is that she is going. And
is that what it is? I don't really know anything about Rachel Reeves apart from whatever.
She says it's a personal issue, but I guess being fired is quite personal. I mean, what happened was that Badenoch asked in PMQs whether she said, a year ago, whatever, you said that you 100% backed, talking to Starmer, that you 100% backed your chancellor. Is that still the case? That kind of thing. And Keir Starmer didn't directly answer.
And that's what she cried in Parliament. And
you know how PMQs goes. If you don't answer the question, which they never do, the follow-up question is the same question. So it's that PMQs is always, there's one question at the beginning, it's not answered, and then it's just reformulated 5 times, and that's the end of PMQs. So she asked him again, and he didn't answer again. And just more and more slowly, the tears started to come. Now, that might not be what it is. That's officially not what, she's saying it's nothing to do with that. She had some personal issue. She did look pretty fucking down from the get-go, to be fair. But she did get increasingly upset and started to cry while these questions were being asked of Starmer.
Oh, God. I didn't really follow that. That sounds awful. And tell me, what's the context here then? Because isn't Starmer under threat of loads of problems because of U-turns and all that? And is Rachel Reeves a major part of that? And is he using her as a scapegoat?
Yeah, he's obviously using her as a scapegoat. Rachel Reeves has done the job that she's been asked to do by Keir Starmer and his advisors. She has done that job exactly to as best as anyone could do it. The fact that it hasn't worked is just because it never works. It's the same ideas that they've had for the last 10, 15 years. It's not Rachel Reeves' fault that the world hasn't completely refangled itself for the Labour government. But of course, Starmer, I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? Once, it's like just before, it's like chess, isn't it? Generally, towards the end of the game, you're encircling the king. You know, what does the losing team have to do? They have to start sacrificing some of their big pieces, like the chancellor in this case. So you see the chancellor go, not because the chancellor's done anything wrong, but it's to protect the prime minister. But it's just prolonging the agony, really. Starmer.
So do you think Starmer will go?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Everybody goes someday. No point crying about it. I think. Will Starmer go before the next election? It would be surprising if he stayed at this point. I mean, something could happen. One thing that might happen is that we will have a full-out war with Russia, kind of a Netanyahu situation where, think suddenly it's not so important what's going on domestically, and we all got to rally behind Starmer. It's possible. But, generally it doesn't look very good for him. But what I want people to think about, what I want all you truckers to think about is, as these people start to be sacrificed to the gods of the guilt market, which is the aptly named guilt, what I want people to think about is, yes, okay, these people are terrible and really unpopular now, and everything you read about them, well, you'll start to slowly read stuff about how, Starmer's not that smart. I thought he was smart, but maybe he's not. Actually, he's quite ugly. Oh, he's got a stupid voice. Have you noticed that? I had noticed that before, but now I'm really noticing how stupid his voice is. Like, you start to
Have you ever seen the way he eats a bacon sandwich?
No, I'm waiting for that. People are like putting they're sort of making sure that his schedule, like he doesn't have anywhere to stop. So he's really hungry all day. And then they're just placing a bacon sandwich down so that he has to eat it. And then we'll catch him. But you'll see all this stuff about Starmer, right? And you'll be like, yeah, well, I didn't really like Starmer to begin with. But now I really don't like him. And it's good to get him. We'll get him out. We'll get in a good Labour leader. And, things will be right. And that's the kind of thinking. It's this sense of sacrifice. Starmer's sacrificing the Chancellor now. The country's going to sacrifice Starmer. By the country, I mean the Labour Party, the government itself, the whole fucking media arse lickers around them. They're all going to sacrifice Starmer to continue the project. Right? And the idea is to catch in that moment, to reflect on what is going on, right? Because at some point, not me, but at some point, people voted for Starmer. They voted for Starmer to be leader of the Labour Party. They voted for, well, actually not many people voted for Starmer to be the Prime Minister. But people did vote for him, right? And people did accept it. And there was some excitement. Even in my parts of the world, I was in a pub on election night. And a lot of people were cheering the Labour government coming into power. Really? And I know it's partly, get rid of the Tory party. But there was much more optimism than that. There was genuine optimism behind Starmer's project. And so as you see Starmer start to be vilified by the media and eventually sacrificed, I want to think about what the people, the sort of advice you sought, how you came to the conclusions a year or 4 years ago around Starmer. Like, what made you think about either voting for him or not actively despising him from the get-go? Who those people were, what they're saying now to cover their own backs, and who they're now promoting, who they go on to say, once they've, drowned Starmer in the toilet and looked up and looked around for someone else, for a new prey. And, this person, Wes Streeting. They drag Wes Streeting in. He's good. Look at this face. He's the best. He's competent, isn't he? When they start doing that, think, well, is that really... Should I really trust these people anymore? Maybe we should get rid of all of them. Yeah, maybe it's not particularly Rachel Reeves' fault. Maybe it's not particularly Starmer's fault. Maybe it's not particularly the Labour government's fault. Right? Maybe it's a much bigger problem. And obviously this is something that Reform taps into. But I would say that Reform are very much involved in this, quite heavily themselves, whether they like it or not. Interestingly,
involved in what?
in propping up this idea about what's legitimate in this country, what politics should look like, how the economy should function, right? And then in a sense, it's very much like one of the things that legitimizes our politics is having this idea that there is two parties, or there are two arguments. There is an argument to be had between different positions, but the positions generally, either there is an argument that is like a marginal issue that really doesn't affect many people that they passionately fight over, or it's like on the bigger issues like the economy, there isn't really an argument. It's more about who is competent, who is charismatic, who would you like to go to the pub with. That's who you want to go to the pub with. The people I want to go to the pub with, I do not want running this economy. They're great people. They're my favorite people, but I would not like to see them. I wouldn't even like to sort of give them a couple of quid of my own to invest.
Oh my God, you invited me to the pub last night.
No.
I mean, don't want me to have £2.
No, because I know you'll spend it. You'll spend it down the pub. That's the thing. As is the right thing to do, but that's just not the right way to run a country. Anyway.
I'll have a quarter of a pint of orange juice, please.
You'd be lucky to get that these days, mate.
Yeah.
Anyway, exciting development. So, Glastonbury, eh? Poor. Big news.
Blimey.
Yeah.
What a very highly politicised event it was this year.
Rick Astley didn't even perform.
Did he not?
No. I was wrong. I admit I was wrong. We should do the video, the classic YouTube, where I'm like, I was wrong, but I'm proud. I'm big enough to admit it with this YouTube video. Yeah. Rick Astley didn't perform. I thought he performed every year, but I guess that was more wishful thinking on my part. Anyway, I didn't really watch much of it, to be fair. I mean, you didn't have to. You just had to watch the news. The entire thing was on the fucking news.
Yeah, I didn't go this year, but my friend went, and he said that it was so political that everyone on the final day was just desperate to watch one act, and it was the best act of the whole thing, and it was Basil Brush. Because it just wasn't politics.
Wait, Basil Brush does music?
Basil Brush does being Basil Brush and going boom boom a lot and chatting to the crowds and shit.
Oh, right.
So he's like a fun act.
Yeah. Well, not as fun as Rick Astley.
Not as fun as Rick Astley. He's the guy who was in the Smiths, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what he's famous for, being in the Smiths.
I always get confused between
Rick Astley. Rick Astley and Morrissey.
Morrissey and Alan Jones.
Rick Astley, Morrissey,
he's walking in the air.
Stuart Lee. Who's that guy? The dictator, whatever, in Eastern Europe that Stuart Lee goes on about. I think
Milosevic.
Yeah.
Milosevic.
Yeah, what happened to Alan Jones?
He was walking in the air. he
fell off.
Flew off. He fell off. He got zipped up into space.
Like fucking Warner Brothers cartoon. Yeah.
So, what are you going to say about Glastonbury then? What did you think? What can you say?
I didn't watch it. Didn't it. I didn't watch it. I was out living my life, Don't concern myself with these things. I was enjoying. Yeah. I went on a Lime bike around London.
A line bike? What's that?
It's like these hire bikes, but they're electric, so you don't have to do anything. Right, we've got 10 minutes left. Already we're down to fucking 10 minutes. This was supposed to be the first half where we actually do stuff, and then we would do some like one little thing, maybe comments or whatever in the second half. But we barely done anything, Matt.
Okay.
Let's talk about. This is something again. This podcast predicted the Restore Party. You heard about this?
Why aren't you talking about the new Corbyn party? This is what's annoying. I keep expecting you to lead on the new Corbyn party. What is going on? What's the face last night? Just
classic diversion.
Resigned.
So you do not want to talk about Restore? You're not interested in Restore?
I don't know what it is, but I'd have thought, because the whole thing about this podcast
All right,
is
fine.
that we're the last bastion of Corbynites in this goddamn country.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
the citadel of Corbynism,
Yeah.
but you're not talking about. It's like Fight Club. The one thing about the Corbyn party is that you don't talk about the fucking.
Yeah.
Why hasn't it happened? Why did they sort of announce it last night, but it all sort of didn't get announced? There's still not a name for it, and what's the one that you're talking about now? The releasist part.
Restore. Well, it's another
Restore,
one of those.
What are they?
It's another one of those re-parties, isn't it? I mean,
What is it? Who is it?
It's no refangle. It's no refangle, is it, Matt? But we'll take it. Restore. It's Rupert Lowe.
Oh, from UKIP's.
Yeah, but he's not from UKIP. And also, it's not a party. That's the main thing he wants you to know. It's definitely not a party. It's a movement.
Oh my god! But that's what Jeremy keeps doing.
Yeah,
He keeps
I know.
saying that he's doing a movement of some kind. It's like, well, you're not fucking moving anywhere. Is it going?
Exactly. So yeah.
Make the party. Make the party and let me join a party again.
So is that's Restore covered.
And get George Galloway in it.
Clearly, no interest for Restore on
I
this.
don't
podcast.
know what it is. It's Rupert Lowe, the
Rupert
fucking
Lowe,
deputy something of the fucking.
No, he's an independent MP.
Possum party. Oh, is he?
Yeah, he was
Oh,
chucked
God.
out. Anyway, okay,
Well,
you want to?
that's not going to have any effect, is it? He's not going to get anywhere.
People are very excited about it. What's
I
his
missed that
face? God damn it! To the Sheriff of Nottingham's henchman. He's excited.
Oh, Carl Benjamin.
Carl Benjamin. He's well up for it. Who else is up for it? Oh yeah, black belt banker, black belt wanker. What's the black belt barrister? Do you know that guy?
Haven't seen him.
Well, good for you. I envy you, sir. No, he's all right. I don't know. He's just some guy on the internet like everybody else. But it's
I
just
like
like
everyone.
all of the. I know you do. All of these channels, like this week, all just started talking about this new Rupert Lowe thing. It's interesting that it started just now, because another thing started just now.
Jeremy Corbyn
the
party.
Bring Back Rick Astley to Glastonbury movement. And I'm stuck. Now, yeah, Jeremy Corbyn. Well, we've only got 6 minutes, 50 seconds left of this part of the podcast, Matt. Should we delve into this heady subject?
Yes.
Okay, so, yeah, it doesn't have a name yet. What do you think? Speculate. Mad speculate.
For Rupert Lowe's new
No,
party.
it's called Restore. I thought you didn't want to talk about that. No.
The new Jeremy Corbyn party.
Yeah.
Oh God, I hope they've focus grouped it. On this one occasion, I hope they come up with something good. I don't know what was
As
the
long
name
as
of
as long as it doesn't have "re" in the title, I'll be happy.
Yeah. What was the name of Jeremy Corbyn's Peace and Justice? Or was it that? Was just
That was
wasn't
it. Peace and Justice Project. Yeah.
Can't really have a Peace and Justice party.
No.
You could.
No. Nah.
Oh.
P and J.
Peanut butter.
Yeah,
peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, I don't know what they could call it really. Like people say,
What's the name of the lady? Is it Zara Sultana?
Zara Sultana. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, we
It
could
looks
do
quite
all the
good.
classic like Zara Sultana, raisin expectations, raisin living standards, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's quite good.
Yeah, well, this is my plan. You see, I told you, right? So I'm gonna marry Zara Sultana one day.
Oh yes.
So
That's the lady you like.
This is crazy, right? But in 5 years, I could be in Downing Street
Yeah.
as the sort of kept husband of
Yeah.
Zara, and I'm very happy to be in that role. So, how was Parliament today, darling? Dinner's almost ready. I'd love to do that. I'd just hang out all day, do this stupid podcast with you. We couldn't talk about politics at all, though. It would have to be completely,
It wouldn't be able to be.
completely Rick Astley focused. But,
Yeah. It wouldn't
yeah.
be able to be called Newscum. It would just have to be called Cum.
Yeah. Just a load of cum. Yeah, that would be. Well, that's where
That's
we're moving
way
towards.
less controversial for your new.
Sadly, it
prime
is
ministerial wife.
actually. Yeah. So yeah, Zara Sultana as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. What do you think about that?
Well, it sounds good. I'm going to join that party. Movement when it.
No, I think
turns
this.
up.
I'm hoping this will actually be a party and not a movement.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it doesn't have a name. Now, why was it announced in a tweet yesterday? Now, I think the timing is absolutely perfect. Like, given the fact that it's like 5 years too late, obviously. But,
yeah.
But if it's going to be five years too late, which it is going to be at this point, this week, what's happened in Parliament, I think it's a really, really perfect moment. Because coming off the back of that Palestine Action vote, which was so divisive, and the people that voted against it gives you a real core support. Now, I don't know who's going to move, who of those people that voted will join this new party, but that's, in terms of MPs, that's your base. So I think it was 20 odd MPs from all over the place voted against this order, whatever it is, to prescribe Palestine action. Amongst other terrorist groups. Can we talk about some of the other terrorist groups that they
go on?
So they prescribed the Maniacs murder cult.
Right.
The Maniacs murder cult were prescribed. Can you believe it, Matt? I mean, I was like, do you know when the Maniacs murder cult began?
No.
2017. So it's almost 10 years of maniac. What's the word? What's the adjective?
Maniacs murder cult. MMC.
And you think, you know, they've prescribed Palestine Action in what, under 2 years? Now, I'm not saying that Maniacs Murder Cult were as bad as Palestine Action. But, you know, I would think after just a few days of hearing about Maniac Murder Cult, it's 2017, you'd be like, well, let's give them 10 years. see where they're going with this. Maybe there won't be a terrorist. They talked about it. I can't remember where I got this from. Oh, yeah, it was some really obscure global network of extremism technology. There was very little in the press, despite their 10 years of carnage. There was very little in the media, in the British media over the last 10 years about Maniac's murder cult. Just haven't been covered. But they have been now since they've been prescribed as a terrorist organization. And it says the Maniac's murder cult is a violent and extreme neo-Nazi group that predominantly operates in the Eastern and Western Europe. So Europe, then.
So Europe.
Yeah. But it sounds more like they've done some research. According to the Global Network of Extremism and Technology, they first formed around 2017 and run mainly by two young far-right extremists, one of whom goes by the name Commander Butcher, who uses shady channels to communicate with members. I don't even know what... I mean, who wrote this? Shady channels. Yeah. The group go by the abbreviations MKY, MKU, and MMC, and instructs would-be members to participate in various degrees of offline criminality, including assault, murder, and terrorism, to maintain their membership. That's how you maintain membership. You don't even progress, just to stay in that week. The network claims the group doesn't have to have any... Sorry, the network claims the group doesn't seem to have any clear goals other than simply spreading disorder and chaos. I don't even know if they are terrorists. They just sound like criminals. I don't have to call it terrorism. Just arrest these people.
Well, yeah.
Anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, but this is the thing. Like, just the whole like order that they were putting in. The fact that this Maniac's murder cult, it's just a joke. That, like, to have to talk about this in Parliament. Will you vote to stop the murder maniac cult? Do you dare? We've got less than a minute. Any thoughts?
I think you've covered it. Jesus. Basically, they're trying to acquire.
And we're back. You were in the middle of saying something.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, I forgot to mention. So this podcast is brought to you through a succession of 40-minute Zoom calls, and we started late. So I think we only got 20 minutes out of that first one, because it's not about when you start the recording. It's like the moment that I start the Zoom meeting, the clock is ticking. So then I have to wait for Matt to enter the room. Sometimes he's not there immediately. So I then sometimes, like just now, end the meeting because I've been in the meeting for 5 minutes already just on my own. So then I restart the meeting again. So I get a fresh 40 minutes, try and get Matt in as soon as you can, get the microphone set up. It's a lot of work behind the scenes. And, I'm not trying to burden or brag about all the work goes into, even though I just did. But it is a lot of work. Anyway, we've got 40 minutes now. Let's try and get the most out of this one. Of course, if it all goes wrong, we can always start again and do another 40 minutes, trapped in these 40-minute cycles. Anyway, what were we talking about? Zara Sultana. First.
Your wife-to-be.
Wife-to-be. My first wife-to-be. Of the many wives I will have over the course of my life. She would be the first Muslim prime minister of this country. It seems like a long shot. Not necessarily because she's Muslim. I think this is one of the core kind of confusions we have these days. She's the wrong kind of Muslim. So I think, that it's unlikely that you'd have a Jewish prime minister of the UK.
Benjamin Disraeli.
Yeah, I mean, it's a numbers game, right? I don't know about in those times what the Friends of Israel. I mean, Israel didn't exist, but it's like what the Zionist lobby thing was, like what the politics were. But these days, like you could have a Jewish prime minister, but you couldn't have the wrong kind of Jew as prime minister because it's not really about. And it's at the end of the day, it's about politics. People want to make it about religion and, being Muslim. You could have Savage Javid could have been prime minister, presumably at some point. He was quite sort of weak-willed, subservient man-child that you can place into the prime minister thing. I mean, that's what all prime ministers are. He fitted that quite well. But you couldn't have like a pro-Palestinian Muslim woman. I think there's a lot of problems there for Zara Sultana.
I don't know, Daniel. You say that, but I mean, Corbyn came within a few thousand votes of winning in 2017, as you well know. So, I mean,
yes, and that
politics is so in flux.
The issues that would face Zara Sultana as being a pro-Palestinian Muslim woman, that didn't hinder Corbyn at all, did it? It was not an issue. I mean, yeah. I think it's you're up against it for a number of reasons, and all of these kind of little things are just another strike. I would like to say that it's possible, but it does, like, it's not the main issue, but it pertains to the main issue, which would be with a new left-wing party, how does it tackle the idea of mass immigration and sort of identitarian politics on the right? Would be one of the big issues. The other one would be, what the fuck is it actually going to do economically? What is the plan that's actually any different to what Rachel Reeves is crying about these days? Because I don't think... I think there was an interesting point when Corbyn first came in as leader of the Labour Party, and he got in a few I can't remember, they were now interesting economic advisors who were quite mainstream, but had been sidelined by the establishment because they didn't fit in with the sort of pro-austerity agenda. And it'll be interesting to see what, with a party, with an actual framework, with a voice, because they will have some MPs. And that takes me back to the past and action thing. So 20 MPs voted against it. Some of them, maybe all of them, maybe none of them, well, some of them, maybe one or two of them, certainly, will join this new party. And then if there's a momentum, maybe others will as well. So you've got the independents, Corbyn, Zara Sultana, John McDonnell, the Muslim ones who I can't remember the name of because they've got...
McDonnell's not leaving yet, is he? He's staying with Labour. That's what he's been quite clear on that.
They're technically... I mean, he's lost the whip. So he's technically not a Labour MP, though he's a Labour member, just like Corbyn was. Now, Labour may take him back in, and that makes it a more difficult decision. But I think at the moment, he's technically an independent MP. Obviously, if he joined another party, he couldn't be a Labour member anymore. But who fucking cares about that? Yeah, I think, there's people like someone that was very vocal in the discussion about Palestine Action was Clive Lewis. Someone
Mm,
like that would be that's the sort of,
mm.
I'm not, no, what's the phrase? Not casting shade at Clive Lewis, but he's kind of like a barometer of,
Mm, mm,
I
mm.
mean, I'm not saying he doesn't have convictions. I mean, I'm not actually a massive fan of his. I just don't feel like
Mm.
shitting on everybody all the time, Matt. I don't want to do that. But
So,
he,
but
yeah, anyway, if he joined, that would certainly show that because I think he's someone that wouldn't want to throw his career away on something,
mm, mm,
even
mm,
even if he thought it was the right thing. I don't know, maybe he would. I don't know what
mm,
I'm talking
mm,
about. But let's keep it hypothetical. Let's keep it classy and let's keep it hypothetical and abstract. If
mm.
someone like Clive Lewis were to join the party, that would be a sign that there was people within Labour more deeply saw this as a legitimate vehicle,
Mm.
as a party that is likely to last or do well in an election. Does that make sense?
Certainly, if there are 20 odd sympathetic MPs, you would have thought it would just, I don't know when there's even been a precedent for it, but how many MPs would have to leave before the Starmer government would fall, or at
Well, he's
least
got a
start?
huge majority despite not getting many
Yeah, he's got a
votes.
huge majority, but it'd just be unprecedented to
Yeah.
have, a dozen MPs or something like that leave the party. The Conservative opposition would just be all over that, and it would show such division. I just think it would be very difficult politically to and image-wise to get over that. So it might be that even though I do think it's been 5 years too late before for Corbyn to set up a party, 6 years, um, it might actually be quite significant in terms of the fortunes of the mainstream Labour Party. Um, Again, it seems like a very kind of chaotic situation, and I guess there'll be a lot of backroom deals and stuff that will prevent them from doing that. But
Doing well.
even just from leaving to the new
Yeah.
Corbyn party, but even if it was just 5 or 10, um,
Well,
I don't
it's
know.
one of those things, isn't it, where it's sort of self-fulfilling. Like there is a kind of there's a tipping point, right? Where
Yeah, yeah.
as an MP, your main concern is keeping your seat as an MP,
Mm,
regardless of
mm,
what party it is. And
mm,
if you're in certain parts of the country, certain constituencies that historically always been a particular party, then you as the MP of in that party in a strong Labour seat, like for example, uh, where I am in Walthamstow, right? This is a very, very strong Labour seat. And I'm not saying that what's her face is going to move. She's one of the last people that would ever leave. But just as an example, a strong Labour seat that's been strong for a while, that continues to grow, in fact,
mm,
the majority, then it's like you're not going to win that seat, your seat. You could win a seat, but you're not going to win your seat by changing to any other party.
mm.
But then things are changing really rapidly, and the polls are really crazy at the moment because people are all over the place. So you see someone like Lee Anderson, who was
Mm,
voted in as a Labour councillor, then became did he become a Labour MP? I think so. He became a Tory MP, and then he
mm.
became a
Reform.
Reform MP.
Mm,
So over the course of one parliamentary term, basically, he went from
mm.
Labour to Reform via the
Yeah.
Conservatives, keeping his seat the whole time, and then keeping a seat in elections that were fought.
Mm, mm,
So the seat was changing. The demographics or whatever of the voters were shifting in that area, and so the Reform candidate was going to win. So he
mm,
just became the Reform candidate. I think I
mm.
remember making a joke at the time. It's like instead of having various candidates, why don't we just have the same 600 odd MPs or whatever, and we just vote for what party we want them, what badge we want them to
Yeah.
wear, and they all
Yeah.
just shuffle in their seats.
Mm,
Because you could see that a lot. And so if you could see in the polls a new party doing very well in certain constituencies where Labour are struggling, then you might see the MPs who are not particularly enamored with this government or with what the Labour Party's become actually just joining the party before
mm.
the actual election. So you've got various ways to go, but once that starts to happen, then there's more momentum, right? Once you've got a few MPs, and it's not just MPs. I didn't mention this last time. A huge number of councillors were either blocked from running or left the Labour Party. I think it's called the Liverpool Independent Councillors, which is like I think there's a whole council that's been historically Labour that's now entirely independent because they've all left the Labour Party. So there's things like this where, without even having an election, this new party could take a council, could take 10 MPs or more. It could be, as big as the Lib Dems without ever having any votes at all, which is interesting. I don't know what's going to happen with these, because as I say, there's about 29 of them, I think, are Labour MPs through and through. They haven't lost the whip, or they did lose the whip and now they've got it back. Those kind of people, I think, would be very difficult. Someone like Diane Abbott, despite being treated abominably by the Labour Party at the last election, it'd be really. I can't. I thought when Diane Abbott won, I thought she might immediately go independent, but that was probably too exciting. I was thinking too dramatic. It would have been an interesting thing to have done though, because it was obviously Corbyn had just been chucked out just before the election. They'd been not, dangling it in front of him so that he couldn't make a plan before the election. Maybe they'll let him back in, maybe they won't. Then they obviously chucked him out just before, so he had to desperately scramble to form an independent campaign. And at the same time, they tried to push Diane Abbott out. Diane Abbott, there was a big backlash. She stayed. She won, of course, as the Labour MP. Now, Diane Abbott, of all the Labour MPs in the country, she's one of, apart from people like Jeremy Corbyn, has a very good chance of winning as an independent. And she could, and I think they're aware that if she hadn't won as an independent, she could have dramatically, I don't know, split the Labour vote to the point that anyone else could win in Hackney. Seems unlikely. I think they just thought that maybe she could win. And also the backlash was affecting the entire national campaign. But anyway, so if she had, after winning for Labour under a Labour ticket, immediately gone to be an independent afterwards, that would have been really interesting. And it's that kind of momentum that this movement of having a new left party has never really had. Everybody's kind of moved slowly, cautiously. And now that Zara Sultana has come out with something public, this could be, this is really the sort of knife edge moment. Are people going to move? Because the other thing that happened, you had the Palestine Action thing, but the other thing that happened this week was the massive rebellion against Labour's PIP bullshit that they were doing.
Yeah, and disability payments.
Yeah. We could talk about that. That would be something that would be good to talk about anyway, but it would also maybe link into what the hell is the left-wing party going to do economically. But sorry, Matt, you were going to say something.
Well, I was just going to say, I was going to ask you why you thought that Diane Abbott hadn't become independent, given that she's so closely aligned to Corbyn and that lot. And is that perhaps because she's been given so much, just a lot of psychological abuse over the years? Is she just more comfortable to be in like a central, a mainstream party? And would it be just too horrible for her to have to fight another front? And the other point I was going to make,
I don't know if it is more horrible for someone like Diane Abbott to be in the Labour Party, or
would it make any difference? Yeah, might be nicer. And then the other, so I don't quite know why she hasn't moved. That seems a little bit strange in a way, but maybe it's just.
I feel like there might be an obvious answer. Inertia. I don't know.
There might be a bit of inertia there, perhaps. And then the other point I was going to make was just to say that it might well be that a lot of this really does hinge on how Zara Sultana comes across to the British public, to the electorate, because Corbyn's already a known entity. Like, everyone's got their opinion on him, but I don't think the name recognition of Zara is particularly high. I haven't really followed her career at all. I looked her up the other day because you'd talked more about her, but I don't know a great deal about her. I wouldn't have thought many people would know. So I think if she can come across really well, that could really be the most fundamental factor.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. She's very good in a lot of ways. As I say, like, if it's going to be a left-wing party with Corbyn, it's going to be divisive anyway.
Mm.
And because just of who she is and her politics, like she's going to get a lot of shit. And how she handles that, I don't know. She's obviously already had quite a time of it internally in the Labour Party, people briefing against her, all sorts of nonsense going on. But that's very different to being a national figure. I mean, she's one of those people like I don't want to compare her to AOC because I don't like these comparisons, mainly because the Americans are like just shit. Like Bernie Sanders is like nothing compared to Jeremy Corbyn, right? I mean, he's an interesting figure. Probably would have been a better president than Donald Trump, for example. But Bernie, Jeremy Corbyn is a much, I don't know, just searching for, like, I don't want to say serious. I don't know what the word is, like authentic, something.
He's part of,
Better.
he's a man of the people.
No,
is
he's
what we're
just
saying.
better. He's just superior in every way.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know exactly how, but he is. But yeah, no, I do think Jeremy Corbyn, like his career and what he's done in politics, when he was at the top or near the top, it is markedly better than Bernie Sanders. And certainly having, in Corbyn's case, lost the leadership and in Bernie Sanders lost the race, what he has continued to do or stood for in the face of a lot of opposition and nastiness, I think is better. Bernie Sanders, I think, yeah. Anyway,
I mean, I think we'll, yeah. I mean, unless you're on the right, I think everyone accepts that Corbyn's a principled and decent person.
No, but I think if you,
I'm sure Bernie Sanders is as well. But Bernie Sanders is playing the game. He's a senator. He's part of the, he's part of the system. And also, crucially, I know you wanted to come on to this point about, what kind of economic change can there really be in Britain? And obviously, I do think that's important. But I mean, the real dividing line between Bernie Sanders and Jeremy, and I think probably with Zara on Jeremy's side as well, is over foreign policy. I've always believed, really, that if you solve a lot of those foreign policy issues and you don't pump loads of money into that and you're not inflating fear all the time and all those things, then a lot of the domestic issues will be almost naturally resolved. So it could well be that, no, I was going to go too far there and say that Palestine is still the question, as John Pilger put in a couple of major documentaries. That was the title of his films. Palestine is still the question, I think it was. But it could well be that this foreign policy adventurism by Starmer could yet bring him down, because there's such clear dividing lines between him on that and Corbyn. Whereas really what Corbyn was ever saying on economic stuff was, we'll chuck another 50 billion into the economy and we'll try and be fair where we can on other stuff. So, I mean, that's the big dividing line for me. That's partly because I'm interested in international politics, but it's also seems to me that that's where the massive dividing line is between not just with Bernie Sanders, but also with sorry, my thing just went click. But also with the mainstream.
Well, Matt, we've only got 40
Labour
minutes. The Labour Party and the New Party, that would be the dividing line. International, blah de blah. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So maybe that's the answer.
Yeah, but I don't think. Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because I was going to say I don't think that is the dividing line with voters, or that
with that's the problem, and that's what I'm mapping my own thoughts onto that, which is not so good.
But having said that, it weirdly feeds in a kind of culture war way, because everything's it's like if you are. I don't know if you call it a genocide at all, right? Mm-hmm. And you focus or pay attention to the fact that the Israeli military is shooting people who are coming for food aid, and this gets really crazy, right? Something that's happened over the last week that we could discuss is the Tehran Times, the paper of record in Iran. Said that they had evidence of a false flag operation being planned in the US by Israel.
Right. Okay.
Um, and you know, they're like, well, we have some evidence, and then like everyone else, like, well, we don't believe it or we don't see the evidence. Who knows? But like for many people, that is just preposterous to
Mm,
imagine that Israel, even though
mm,
they do
mm.
accept, most people who are engaged with this kind of thing do accept there's been at least deliberate starvation and certainly
Yeah.
an indifference to the killing of civilians, the mass death of civilians in Gaza, and the pager attacks. But there is a certain level of, yeah, well, they would do that. It's almost like,
They are audacious.
yes,
Let's
they're
put it like
audacious
that.
towards Arabs or something. Like there is, but they wouldn't. It's not racist, but it's like kind of this is some. They would never do that to
Mm,
American people. Like it wouldn't serve them in the long term. I don't think they give a
mm.
shit about the long term, right? They're desperate to manipulate things right now so they can maximize. Anyway, this kind of stuff. The other thing, Oxycontin in the food that they're giving Palestinians. Have you heard about that?
No, what was that?
So it's come out, rumors, speculation that they are putting opioids into the food to try and drug the people of Palestine and get them addicted to pacify the
Wow.
population. And there is a history of that as well. Again, is it proven? And it's like, well,
Mm,
partly one, the
mm,
problem is that no media are allowed in. The Israelis are the
mm.
one that I mean, this is the thing. Like, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But how do you quell a rumor like that? How do you why do you think rumors like that come about, and how can you set up a situation where they're less likely? One thing is don't allow the country that has been bombing Gaza and killing thousands, whatever you think, whether you believe the Hamas medical numbers, whatever, thousands of people have died, thousands of children have been maimed, and that government are the one that have complete control over the food aid that is going into Gaza, and they won't let any international aid organized. Like, if you don't want rumors about how that's being operated, let other people do it. Like, it's just, to accept, well, Israel should do it. And then if you question what Israel's doing, then you're like, why wouldn't you question Israel at this point? I mean, it's crazy. It's just absolutely mental. It's like, would you expect like Russians, like the Russian military, to be going into fucking Kiev and giving out fucking ham sandwiches? It's like, no, that's not. That I would be suspicious of that. Or if you were
Mm,
suspicious of that, I would think it's justified. Why are they doing that? What and why won't
mm,
they let
mm,
anybody else give the sandwiches out? It's like,
mm,
for
mm,
fuck's
mm.
sake. Anyway, what were you even talking about? Zara
Well,
Sultana. Ah, Zara Sultana.
one one I was going to say that I think although foreign policy is sort of my pet project, it is nevertheless obvious that things are going to continue to get worse in foreign policy. Trump hasn't solved things by bombing Iran. It may have delayed whatever, but and it's the same with Russia. I mean, everyone knows that defense spending is going to go through the roof in Britain and elsewhere. Everyone's talking about as though there's going to be World War III in either 5 minutes or 5 years. And so those material conditions on the ground, the spending and the chaos, is going to become increasingly an issue. I can't see how that's going to decrease. So the more that Zara and Jeremy are able to use that as a wedge. I don't mean use it because obviously we all believe that it shouldn't be happening anyway. But politically, I think that they will find increasing space there. And we could be back into a position where there are, at some point there could be 1 million people back on the streets again, like in 2003. But hopefully this time, doing it in a way that is bit more sustained, and
Well,
perhaps with even greater concern for our own safety.
there has been a sustained march, and it's been in London every week, and the numbers
Mm.
have reached. I'm pretty sure they've got up towards 1 million at one point. Not
Really?
not as
My fr
I'm really bad with numbers. They
I'm not
got up
sure about
to
that. My
they
friend
got
went
up
the other
to
day, and
no, not at the moment, but some
yeah.
of towards at certain moments at the beginning, and then there was the one that still quite early on, I suppose, when What's the Chops tried to stop it because it was the day before Memorial Sunday or whatever. That was
Oh,
what's
the
the
Home Secretary,
name? Yes, you know,
Suella.
Suella Braverman. Yeah, she tried to stop it, and there was and I think because something devastating had happened that week as well in Gaza, like there was a particular, and then there was one. I think there might be one coming up. That's sometimes they they try and rally. They do it. Some people do it every week, but obviously they can't get huge numbers every week. But they have got the numbers have been incredible considering how long this has been going on, and
Okay, yeah.
it hasn't really been covered. And obviously, it could always be bigger. But it's so divisive because the narrative has always been with the Conservative government and now obviously with the Labour government that this is terrorism. That it's not a protest. It's fear mongering among the Jewish community in central London and all this kind of stuff. Why do the Jews live in central? Why do they own all the property there? No, I'm joking. You know what I mean? It's like so there is a foreign policy issue, but it's very much taken into this sort of culture war-y thing. It's like you disagree with the genocide. It's more like if you're concerned about the genocide or you're calling it genocide, it's because you love Muslims and you love immigration and you want the white working class.
It completely feeds into identity politics, and it completely feeds into domestic policy. Even God knows how long ago, maybe 3 decades ago, that link between foreign policy and domestic policy was called, I think, intermestic policy.
That's quite cool.
By the political scientists, just meaning that these things are so intrinsic. I mean, I have to say that it hasn't seemed that intrinsic to me, even though I've wanted it to be, because I'm like, foreign policy is an absolute nightmare. That should affect what's happening in our country. And oftentimes it hasn't. Of course, Blair even won in 2005 after the whole Iraq thing, or not even after, but after they went in. So it's often seemed that foreign policy isn't that important. But I think there could come a point where that theory of intermestic politics does become pivotal.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you're
and,
right.
and it might need that. It might need the Corbyn party and the and Zara's party to ignite that. And that's why I say I think it's so important how she comes across to the broader public. And of course, the media will no doubt spit on her early grave as quickly as they can. But it might be that there's an opportunity to cut through there. It's one of the reasons I was so pleased to see that she was going to be joint leader with Corbyn.
Yeah, I thought, well, obviously my plan before of Corbyn becoming leader, having immediately stepping down was not a good one.
We're not great political movers and shakers, Daniel.
That's why they make the big bucks. But joint leadership, in that sense, it makes more sense than in the Green Party, for example. Mainly because I don't like the Green Party. That's why it makes more sense. But it does, because obviously Jeremy Corbyn is old and doesn't want to be, starting a new party where he will be prime minister, for 1 term, 2 terms in an ideal world. Like he wants to be part of a party that is a kind of legacy to the movement that was created when he was with the Labour Party. And he wants to support that party as best he can. Now, the obvious position is leader, but that sort of the problem with that is then it becomes another Corbynism again, and then it's all about Corbyn. And if Corbyn steps down or whatever, then it's over. So I think having immediately, instead of having a successor or anything, immediately starting with we've got 10 minutes again. By the way, this is a complete nightmare. I thought it would be quite fun to do the 40-minute thing, but now it's getting on my nerves.
I think it's good fun.
All right, you put me over. I've flip-flopped. Yeah, well, I guess.
Yeah, I thought it 6 years ago when I thought, obviously he can't be really the front and center leader. He needs to be a figurehead. That's what he is. He connects with a large whole swathe of the electorate who believe that he's authentic and a good guy, but he needs someone to be better at the kind of frontline politics stuff. So I think if Zara's good at that, then that could be a really effective combination.
Just on your point of what did you call it? Intermestic?
Intermestic, yeah.
Yeah, like 2003, it was interesting, right? You had this huge movement against the war. and then Labour won again. Now, I mean, one of the problems was, well, what are you going to do? Vote Lib Dem?
Mm,
Come off it, Lib Dem.
mm,
Like there wasn't much in terms of parliamentary politics. There wasn't anywhere to go with it.
mm,
But my point now would be that what really damaged Corbyn when he was leader, certainly within the Labour Party membership, was the stuff about anti-Semitism and Palestine and stuff.
mm,
Because there wasn't an appetite for that fight or
mhm,
really an understanding of it.
mm,
And now there is what is definitely true is there is a really broad movement across the country of support for Palestine and a real
mm,
interest in it and people
mm.
really educating themselves about the issue. Now,
Yeah.
how big that is in terms of like if you have a national election, what that's I don't know.
Mm,
Because it's very hard. I don't know what do they do like fucking polls on this. It's very hard to gauge. Obviously, they're very vocal. The people who are involved. So you go
mm,
on TikTok or so any sort of social media, and it's just full of people who are sort of
mm.
pro it. There are also lots of people who are who are very pro Israel
Yeah,
and stuff.
so for instance, when it is difficult to know, but when I stood for Parliament last year, I mean, I hardly got any votes, but there was, generally speaking, people were very happy to because I was doing it purely on foreign policy. That was my sort of idea,
In
to
Bath,
pure, yeah, yeah.
what people were listening to you
And
about Palestine.
people responded to that. People, everyone's interested in that. Everyone thinks, oh, that's a really legitimate point, but they didn't really vote for me. So they, and I know that's kind of obvious, but at the same time,
Yeah,
it's
well,
going to be a real test, isn't it? When is it going to become the absolute key issue?
it's a different. They're
And I
two
don't know when.
separate. They're two separate things because I think
Mm,
if if you have a new party and it's gained MPs, it's making waves. It can't be
yeah,
ignored because if it
exactly.
can be ignored, it will be much like
Mm,
George Galloway is, right? But if it can't be
mm,
ignored
mm,
because you're having these, you imagine the kind of crazy summer of Corbyn turns up at Newcastle and everybody, it's thousands of people on the river, like before, it's these huge events and stuff, and
mm,
and and,
mm,
and Labour MPs are crossing the floor, all this kind of stuff, right?
mm,
Then the issue becomes relevant because it'll be used as an attack against Corbyn in a way that it was before. The way that it
mm,
was before, what was so damaging was that not only did it seem credible to a lot of people, but what was credible, and again, it's kind of self-fulfilling, is that it was unpopular. He needed to become prime minister because of all the great things he was going to do domestically. And he was being damaged because people in the country, generally did not have an appetite for this like bizarre position and interest in Palestine. Now,
mm.
that might have changed.
Very different.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or
Yeah,
at
he was ahead of
least,
his time.
yeah. Well,
Ahead of
or
his
at
time,
the
really.
very least, you can't just clearly say that in the way that you could before. There will
Mm,
be a lot of people,
absolutely.
huge support either side. And, in an ideal world, what will happen is that much like with Donald Trump, it will be the mainstream media that will start to alienate themselves by attack
Mm,
rather than Corbyn being
mm,
alienated. And you saw that with Trump,
mm,
right? What Trump was talking about, the mainstream media in the US that had no interest in, and they wanted that for people to believe that, to reflect that. But what happened was that people were interested and they started to get pissed off at the media. And that's what you would hope would happen.
And I'll make another point as well. You said, "Oh, no one can go to the Lib Dems in 2005, despite they were on the right side with Iraq and all that." But
No,
actually,
they did go.
what
That
happened
was the,
5 years
that was the
later?
saddest thing. They did go. They did go to 2010.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They went to the Lib Dems. And I know that was mainly about tuition fees, but it was also the legacy of them being right on these other issues, like
Talking about
the foreign
shitty
policy issues. And
Starmer
so it
one.
does happen, but it just takes time and
Yeah, well, that was that. I mean, that video with Nick Clegg with the paper, all the promises falling down. Do you not remember that?
oh yeah, yeah.
That was good. That was the only good. I mean, it probably looks cheesy now, but I think at the time it was like one of the few. Actually, some of Blair's in '97 were pretty good. They're a lot more creative, a lot more
Mm.
interesting than Starmer slowly walking out of a
Well,
military
everyone's
plane.
more interesting than Keir Starmer. But it was only a couple of years ago that 4 years ago that Boris Johnson smashed a bulldozer through some wall named Brexit or something, didn't he? So
Yeah. Well,
these stunts do sometimes happen.
That was
still.
very Lib Dem energy. I think what's his face, Ed Davies, had like a tiny hammer and he like hammered down a wall at the last election. They always get stuff. It's very Spinal Tap. You know, when they ask, they order in the what is it they're ordering for their big concert?
A big Stonehenge, or was it?
Yeah, and it's like
a giant Stonehenge.
Giant Stonehenge, and
tiny.
it's tiny. Yeah, that's basically what happens. That's it. We've got 3 minutes left. We should probably finish it off because we didn't in the first bit.
Go on. What was the bit that we missed?
No, I'm just saying that we only did about 20 minutes of the first 40 minutes that we had. We should probably do some comments.
Oh yeah, comments on the go on.
Yeah, let me try.
Social media comments.
This is the other thing. We did Starmer videos last time, right? And
what did they say?
The sound was muted, and you didn't tell me because it wasn't muted for me because I'm me because it's my computer. So you gotta let me know.
Okay, I'll let you know if it's muted.
But we're not. It doesn't matter right now because we're doing comments. But you get what I'm saying, right? I'm in the wrong fucking. Keep it going, Matt. I've got to get this thing. Come on.
You're in the wrong fucking.
I'm on the wrong
job.
YouTube channel. Yeah. We've only got 2 minutes. All right. Comments. I can't find them. Okay, here we go. Got 1 minute 59 seconds.
It's the incidental.
This is great. This is how you're keeping the podcast going. Jesus Christ, son.
Was it when Channel 4 used to shut down in the 80s?
Oh, come on. Share. Okay, here we go. You ready? Okay, here we go. These are the latest comments, just wherever they are. The stupid purposeful walking video at 103 is even funnier now that he was filmed stumbling out of number 10 today. Please spice it to get to the end. Daniel. Yeah, this is the thing. This guy called me Daniel, and that's your fault.
Yeah.
But did you see Starmer stumbling?
No. That sounds funny.
It was funny. I mean, it was very, normally he looks really serious. He looked actually quite happy for once. And then the universe instantly punished him by making him stumble down a step. Anyway, despite being vehemently anti-editing, I'm glad you clipped this hilarity. That's about me talking about Jews controlling the world. Some people find that amusing. I do not. America is an occupied nation. What do you think? Occupied by the white man against the native
Occupied
American.
by someone.
It is very disappointing. I miss the exciting pointing in the future. Oh, this is talking about the Starmer clips. It's very disappointing. I miss all the exciting pointing into the future action. Do you remember those? I don't know if he has ever had any gorm, but for a time he knew
He's
how
gormless.
to lie
Nice.
convincingly.
That's a really funny way. I don't know if you've got any gorm.
Yeah.
Brilliant comment. Thank you for that.
George W. Bush popularized walking with an orange under each armpit, like a Hank rodeo. I guess that it gives you a kind of swagger. If you've got your arms
makes your
out.
shoulders look big.
Yeah,
I might come on with some oranges under